All right. Hi, my name is Lee McCullum, and I'm James Stewart's mechanic, and we're going to give you a look at this week's Behind the Bars. He just likes the motor to have pretty broad power, and he likes it to be good on the bottom and mid, pull all the way through, basically. He doesn't really necessarily like a hard-hitting motor, but he likes, a motor that has good, full, broad power. These days, there's not that much difference between the indoor and outdoor motor. There is a little bit, depending on the rider, but there's not that much of a difference as people might think. The suspension you have to have set up fairly stiff because he charges the face of the jumps. He rides hard, but he just goes pretty fast when he does hit the bumps and the face of the jump. So you really do have to have a firm setting. But he also likes it to have some plushness to it in the beginning of the stroke. So it needs to be plush, but yet strong enough to take the hit, but then not too harsh at the end of the stroke to where it's going to, send a jolt up into his arms. Yeah, we're still working with the air fork, but we just feel like we haven't had enough time yet with it. It shows to be pretty promising in some areas, but we're still working on it in a few other areas. So for right now, we're going to go with what we know. We have a lot of time invested in these forks, and so that's what we're going to use to start with. And like I say, we're still going to work with the air fork. And don't be surprised if you see it on a bike at some point. Yeah, for the outdoors you have to run a bigger fuel tank. Most guys run like a 7-liter fuel tank, maybe 7.1 or 2 liters depending. Yeah, the button on the handlebars is kind of like everybody has one nowadays. It's just for the mapping, like maybe a start map or maybe a different map to run during the moto. If the track gets slippery, you can detune it a little bit with just a flip of a switch, for a little bit better traction. But he's pretty easy. You put the bars in basically the right spot. I mean, they're not really forward and they're not backwards. They're kind of centered. And the levers are pretty even with the bars. They're not like really pointed down or up that much. So it's basically a neutral setting, more or less. He does like to have the throttle and the front brake in a certain position just to help his wrist a little bit for movement, but it's not anything extreme one way or the other. So there you have it. That's this week's Behind the Bars look at James Stewart's bike, and we'll see you at the races.